Well, look at you, you one-trick pony.
At least I come with dinner.
Well, sometimes not at all.
Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm all spook, no dinner.
Spook.
Yes.
Beating Melbourne yet again. Do we just do this for shits and giggles now?
Do we win?
We just won.
But I tipped us to lose by 10 goals.
Jeez, that's a shock.
What a fucking win, though.
Let's go straight to the beginning, or pre-game.
What, when they were warming up?
Ed Langdon saying Collingwood's all duck, no dinner.
That was never going to backfire on him, was it?
No.
Never in a million years.
I just love the genius of the comment. So effectively you were saying, if we stop them playing their game plan, we'll win.
You just say, we think they're shit.
We should have. What the fuck? First quarter.
It's all about the visual gags today.
Yeah. First quarter, it really looked like it would, despite the really great opening by the goalie kicking a goal, really looked like it was just holding on and they could burst it open.
Yes, because we kicked the last three, I think, didn't we? Just to sort of to get a sniff. And those last three were pretty close together.
Well, we were remarkably efficient the whole night. Once we're going inside 50, we were scoring. It's like, I don't know what land this is.
I think it's because of that Ash Johnson guy and his ability to mark.
We'll get to him later.
Oh, good. I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Second quarter, we were talking, was going, this could be like a good reality check for him.
You had no faith. I can't believe it. I was ready to concede that we were going to only win this by 7 points.
Oh, well, if only those messages existed somewhere where I could edit them in. But it did look like they were just outclassing us.
Yep.
Beating us everywhere, particularly in the fucking centre. You did actually remark, well, if we could win a clearance, we'd dominate. And we were getting killed in clearances.
It's an unusual outcome, though.
Yeah, and so Taylor Adams was out, so, very thin midfield in terms of grunt. Third quarter, it really started to turn. It felt like, they were trying to put the foot on the net, on the throttle, and we were just going, no, we're going to pace you. And then come that last quarter, especially about the last 15 minutes, it was just, we dominated the shit out of them.
Do you think there's a little bit of rope-a-doping going on in the second? I mean, it would be a staggering thing to pull off, but the amount of running, it was almost like watching a witch's hats drill for Melbourne. They were just moving that ball at ease. But there was a lot of running involved in doing that as well. Whether we sort of wore them down a little bit, because they seemed off pace when they came out at half time.
I don't know. I mean, I was actually trying to work this out. Why is it we keep following the same pattern? Like, we fall behind and we take a little bit to get going, and then it really requires an overhaul at the end to beat the opposition. And then watching this game, I was thinking, what we do sometimes, it feels like we do. We're trying to play that chaos ball, but it's total chaos. Whereas in the second half, particularly last quarter, and then when we come back, we play chaos, but there's a system to it. There's a methodology to it. It's not just boot the ball, hope for the best. There's that goal that Josh Dacos kicked in the last quarter to put us in front.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And if you watch it,
that whole end-to-end passage.
But it's just those little handballs they sort of do to thread their way through traffic, and it's chaos, but there's precision in it. So I actually think that as the game goes on, they find some system in what they're doing. Whereas initially, I think it's like they're trying to get the engine started, and they just can't do it. That Essendon game aside, the Essendon game, they went the other way. They started really well, and McRae said that, goes, been working at this, and finally we've put it together. But you look at the win, I mean, no one really thought would beat Melbourne. Everyone thought they'd smash us, and everyone was fearing this is going to get ugly, and all that sort of shit, and we've been punching above our weight. But look at the players who are actually, providing the impetus to do this. Ash Johnson, you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, fifth game, is it now? Fourth game. It's just an amazing return. 10 odd goals. It's just fantastic. And the fact that he leads brilliantly and he's a great mark. And he almost looks like he's about to take mark of the year at some point, which I'm sure he's going to pull it off. Yeah. But it's just like, the little Stanling candy moment that Pendles did at the end of the first quarter. And he's just delivered that ball beautifully. And Johnson's at full flight, like at full stretch and mark. You think, I haven't seen that in a Collingwood forward for a long time. I mean, there's been some great sort of intercept marks and stuff like that, but nothing that's really had such a dominant leading capability. It's
I've never seen that at
fantastic.
Collingwood. I've seen people comparing him to Phil Carman, who's a little bit before my time. I've never seen that sort of lead mark. Maybe Sean Rusling came closest, but he was very reliant on the burst of acceleration and broke. You get like people like Sevilla Aroca and Brian Taylor, who are more traditional lead forwards. Johnson's going at full tilt and taking his fully outstretched. It's amazing.
He's got sticky hands. Like, I mean, and the first couple of games were in the wet too. Yeah. And he was still pretty much grabbing everything inside. He's a find. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, and he's a relatively reliable kick at the moment, so...
We'll fix that in the off-season, though.
That fug, Jordan Ngoe. I mean, how can we not... We should be trading this guy. What is he doing in this side? Yeah. Did he not arrest Melbourne's momentum in the middle? Him and Cox.
Yeah, he was remarkable in the second half. I mean, a lot of them were as well, but he was a clear standout.
Well, he played like a total bull. He really just barged through packs. It was, if you can grab me, then fine. But if you can't, I'm just going to run right through you. And he played the way... I mean, the one thing with Ngoe is... 218, he was brilliant. And he was ahead of Petrarca in terms of where they sat. And Ngoe's 219 started well and sort of fell away. From memory, he had like a hamstring that went about 10 weeks. And 2020, 21, he wasn't the only one, but like, he was sporadic. And when people, say, oh, he was up there with Petrarca, everyone just scoffs, but he was really fucking good. And now he's translating that into the midfield. Yeah, he had a great game. I still can't fathom how you have supporters going, we should get rid of him. Mark Robinson says we should re-sign him.
Oh, yeah. What a backflip that was. Wasn't it about a month ago he reckons he's the dumbest person on the planet?
Yes.
And that's saying something coming from Slobbo, because he's an authority on stupidity. I think he should have been, shot or something, or hung from the tallest yard arm or whatever it is. And then the backflip. It's just amazing. But then I don't actually think that that's just Robbo.
No, that's the media.
That's the media in a nutshell. Every week is a different proposition. And no one's actually supposed to remember the shit that they spin in the past. And that's just a glaring standout.
It's both. It's blaring and glaring.
It was just incredible. Like, you literally... There are moments sometimes where the media actually make you almost fall off your seat. It's just...
If you actually watch and take it seriously, it's... I don't know. The wrong people have television gigs, but I'd worry that if the people who don't have television gigs got the television gigs, then they'd become fucking morons too. Although I will actually qualify this. I don't watch the Sunday footy show. Like, I just catch the snippets on YouTube. I actually got to say, Damien Barrett's been pretty good the last 6 to 8 weeks, which has surprised me because usually he's up there with the worst of them.
Well, he's the best news broker in the business.
Nah, well, someone's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, you used to laugh at him about 10 years ago, but he is very much a voice of reason these days because the rest of them are just clowns.
Yes. Mason Cox in the ruck in the second half helped neutralise Max Gawn.
Yes, I loved the way he went in with the knee a few times, just quietly too.
Yeah.
And he got held accountable for it a couple of times. Melbourne got stuck into him. I would like to see a lot more aggressive Cox. Say that in a nightclub and see what happens. But no, he's
although when you mention that, I mean, he stuck the knee into Gawn. Umpire gave it a free. Melbourne player came across and slung Cox to the ground. Usually that's a reversal. I recall that my check was reversed for doing that to an opposition. I love the consistency of umpiring.
It's a mixed bag week to week. Actually, minute to minute, really.
We'll talk about the umpiring a little bit later, but it's fucking hard watching any of this nowadays because you don't know what the rules are. No, they don't know what the rules are anymore.
Just make it up as they go along, like Indiana Jones.
Nick Dacos, quiet 31 possessions.
How does he keep doing it?
I don't know. He didn't play on anyone, apparently.
Yeah, I saw in the coaches' votes today that Gawn was voted clear best on ground, which, maybe he should have slotted a few of those goals. That would have made him clear best on ground. But thankfully he didn't. But he was very good. De Go was very good. But Dacos, they only gave a vote each too. And I thought, geez, he was pretty much, considering... I think you've got to put it into context of where he is at his career and what he's achieving week to week. That he should be looked at a little bit more seriously.
I actually think it's the other way around. I think they're looking at him and going, like that Adelaide game where he got 40 possessions, was it, and 3 goals? I think they're judging him by that standard now. It's like, 31, yeah, okay. You should be getting 40 at your skill.
And a lot of it's a very much an inflated number game, but I think a lot of his are hard-earned.
Oh, he goes for a lot of daring possessions. He tries to break open or slice open the
But you look
zone.
at his disposal efficiency, it's always absurdly high. He's not burning the ball at any point. And even, he's so calm under pressure. Some of the handballs he dishes off, it's not like anyone's left wondering about whether do I have to move left or right to get it. It's just everything is just delivered on a plate. He's just a joy to watch.
Yeah, hopefully he does that for many years to come. Braden Maynard.
Oh, how good was that tackle?
Oh, yeah, he did 2 great tackles. And
yeah, I loved there was that camera angle that sort of showed, what was the guy he hit? Dullard or something? Or Ballard?
Bullen.
Bullen?
Yeah.
He's in Bulleen right now, I think, the way he was hit.
Oh, that was beautiful. You could see he had it lined up.
Yeah, it's like, but when they see it in that slow motion thing, I think you really got an appreciation for how fast Bruzzy was travelling. Because everyone's doing the and this freight train just comes off from the left of the screen and just collects. Now, I remember seeing that when it actually happened, just going nuts. That is just epic.
Did you see the post-game interview with him?
Yeah.
And he was like, what? He's orgasmic laughing about, I'm watching that tackle. And I can't remember if it was him or Nick Riot was saying, very rarely do you get, everything timed perfectly. Or, get the opportunity to do that. And he got the opportunity to do that and went straight through him. I won't say it was a turning point or anything because the momentum was building. But it really showed the physicality of the side, which, I love to see. I've always loved to see the side be physical. And to do that, that's what I say. You can hit players legally. That's a legal hit, but he's done it really hard. We need more players like that because opposition, that Bullen would have run around for the next 40 minutes going, shit, I hope I don't get another one.
Yeah. It's like when he cleaned up uncontested Ed in the opening of the first quarter and just let him know about it. I love the bloke. He's just so hard at it. And his attitude is just bang on, exactly what you want. And I reckon that moment, even, it wasn't like a game changer or anything blatantly, but I think everyone there get moments in sport where everyone around you looks and says, well, he's just done 150%, we should all lift.
Yeah.
I think most of them around that, or when they saw it, would have been a little bit in awe.
Yeah. Bo McCreary similarly.
Yeah, well, he dropped...
did nothing in the first half, but in the second
Stephen
half...
May.
Yeah.
Did you think he should have probably whacked him one, or did you only save that for restaurants?
Well, apparently, no, I won't go there.
But no, that May's a big unit,
and he's big, and McCreary has done that this year. He's dropped bigger players.
Yeah, but I think he's a bull, literally a bull. And I'm starting to. I was talking about with some other friends, and I think we've brought it up here. Yeah, but they're cardboard cutout ones. Okay. Don't be upset. That I think he's starting to make people second guess when he's in the vicinity because he runs and he hits and he tackles hard.
I actually think I can't really speak for everyone because I know there's been players like Tony Liberatore now who are great tacklers. Gavin Krasiska at Collingwood was a great tackler. But McCreary, the thing I'm really in awe of is regardless of the position the opposition is, whether they're running or trying to fend him off or on the ground like he did against North Melbourne, he just somehow lays the perfect execution of a tackle. And I don't really recall him ever being penalised hitting someone high or getting in their back or whatever.
No, these techniques bang on.
Regardless of the position that he has to adapt to. So it's...
He'll probably be rubbed out for 6 weeks now we've said this.
Yeah, well, his name's not Patrick Cripps.
Yeah, the other fantastic thing about him too is that he did 6 degrees of fuck all in the first half.
Yeah.
And then he makes up with it with that second half. Yeah, I think sometimes you look at the output of players and look, you're not going to get an even 4 quarters. At that point in his career, we're not getting that out of him. But geez, he makes up for it when he does lift and gets involved. He's another joy to watch.
I'd usually say that with small forwards, which is the role he's playing, if you're kicking 1 goal a game, in the end of the season you get 22 goals, and you think that's a pretty good return. But I still think you got to impact the game in other ways and build goals and all that. The thing with McCreary, even if he's not getting the ball, he's actually impacting the game defensively. So even that first half where he's running around not really getting any statistics, I think he's still imposing pressure on the opposition because they know he's there and he runs and he chases and he's quick and he's got that reputation now that if he gets you... I mean, I think, was it James Brayshaw or something that was saying when he tackled May, he's a tackling beast. And that's what he is. And he's going to be one where opposition are going to feel inferred pressure whenever he's around. Ginnivan had a quieter game.
Very much. But that's going to happen.
Yep. Anyone really stand out to you? I really like Pendlebury's game. I actually reckon it's probably the best game he's played in about 2 years.
I know, despite the fact that you consider him a write-off each year, he's really lifting towards the tail end of the season. It's like, I think he must know that. Well, clearly he knows the end is getting closer, and his performances are lifting because this could be his last shot. Well, next year's probably going to be most likely the last shot. But you never know at that age, like injury and that. He's been like really robust, but you can get a niggle now that can knock you out for 2 months. And I think he's just thrown everything at it. Like, I want one more. I want another one.
Well, the thing that surprised me is the whole year we've been saying, look, he looks a little bit slow at times. In this game where the pressure went up to another level from the beginning, he actually seemed at ease. He, it's like that first pass he did. Through the centre was he the one that kicked it long to Cox also?
Yeah, no, was it Howe?
Okay, yeah. But he's really sort of shown the poise that he's lacked at times for the rest of the year. And Sidebottom too, I think, has been a lot more valuable contributor.
Oh, definitely.
Than he has been in the last about 4 years. And then you get the young guys too, which have just really sort of come up. You think, geez, it looks a lot more positive as a future. But there's a good reason for that. Is Bucks put in the 4 years beforehand.
Could you believe that?
Well, he's technically he's right.
Yeah, but however.
But then you wonder where, if we had this sort of attitude in 18, 19, you wonder where, they might have had a flag or two.
Yeah, I still found it astounding when he made that statement after.
Look, I'll say this
after the game.
I'll say something. I know somebody saw Ross Lyon speak years ago at some function, and he was talking about when the Bulldogs won the flag in 2016. So it was like about 2016, 2017. And he goes, that's not just Luke Beveridge's flag. You got to give credit to their previous coach, Brendan McCarthy, who played all the kids for 2 years, and he put in the games and experience into those kids to come up when Beveridge hasn't. But having said that, Buckley's game plan was terrible for all but 1 year. And 2019, the year you thought it would have been good, it was really deteriorating, which we continuously pointed out. So you don't know how those players might have thrived in a better system. Any final thoughts about this game? I mean, it's really hard to sort of rant about it when they keep winning. I mean, where do you think this... Where does this end? 11 in a row. Where could this possibly end?
Where do you reckon it'll end?
I know where it'll end.
No, look, it's just beautiful to watch them at the moment. Look, I didn't think they'd win on when did we play? Friday or Saturday?
2022.
Friday. I didn't think they'd win, but and even there was a couple of times where Melbourne was threatening to kick away with the game, and you sort of thought, look, I don't mind losing this one because they're showing something. Yeah. They're actually playing well. If they lose it by a couple of kicks, I'm not going to be upset. If they get blown away, it's been a fun ride. But geez, when they started swinging and really landing those blows and pegging that lead back and then got their noses in front, fucking hell, I was invested.
And
in that
they went
game.
back and forth. Like the lead, I think, changed like 5 times.
Flipped. It was like a basketball game. It was just end to end.
And Buckley did make the point, when we actually evened out the contested possession, all that sort of stuff. That's when we started to actually match it. I mean, that last 15 minutes, like I said, they barely. I think they got the ball inside there once, inside 50 once, and then we just effectively controlled it. And they just couldn't get free. We'll actually mention this. What do you think of the umpiring? Because it was funny that you sent me a message. A screenshot of someone complaining, a Melbourne supporter complaining about the umpiring.
Look, again, it's just another week of some, seriously baffling decisions. There's a number of, I think the glaring standout was there was 2 dropping the balls missed
in the pocket, and then Nick Dacos was called, and it was there. Nick Dacos' throw was there, and then it was a 50.
But that's frustrating. Yeah, well, the fucking 50s were ridiculous.
Well, Jamie Elliott got a hold of the balls and. Melbourne repeatedly disposed of the ball after it, and there was no 50 there.
Again, that's that lack of consistency. And look, I think there was merit in the fact that when Howe kicked the ball, it was like no one could fucking hear. I think someone actually, one of the players, you could hear on the radio said, you can't hear a thing out here.
Well, that's because
they were so quick to fucking play that 50.
Well, that idiot Brian Taylor goes, players have an intuition when it's a free. And it's like I said, they're meant to stop in anticipation of a free that may or may not be there, because as Pendlebury's pointed out, with Ginnivan getting hit. Everyone stops expecting a free and it's not paid. So it's like you can't fucking play that as an expectation that players should play to what they believe is going to what the umpire's going to do, given no one fucking knows what the umpire's going to do. No. And there's some really bad ones, like and Melbourne did cop a few. Like there's a few of their supporters I saw point out that one with McCreary in the goal square where he basically got gang tackled, and they said he fended it off, but like they all sort of converged on him. He threw his hand out like to try and sort of break free or block. And that was like, well, that's your prior opportunities. And it's like, he just got gang tackled. He couldn't get rid of it at all. So that, like stuff like that not being paid, that's fine. The Nick Dacos one where he was tackled after the mark, and he was just standing there, and then it was like the player tackled him, and the umpire called play on. And that one I actually thought was a 50. It's like, where's this guy come from to tackle him? You should have actually, if this guy was running to the mark, he should have actually went behind the mark. If he hasn't gone behind the mark, then he's over the mark before the umpire's called play on, so it's a 50. So there's a few sort of really stupid ones that were baffling, and it just shows how shitly umpired. I'm not going to blame the umpires because they're getting instructions from above. But fuck, it's really painful to watch.
Yeah, I think sometimes you've also got to umpire to the context of the game. That was a very highly skilled battle. There's a couple of times I think where you just got to take a few seconds after you've blown the whistle to just let things settle a little bit, to explain what the fuck you've just adjudicated on, rather than just keep that constant need to keep the game
that's the AFL
going,
mandate,
which is just. I think sometimes you just got to backpedal a second and sort of just settle it and say, well, this is the reason why.
Well, I will say that, I mean, criticise the umpires, but they paid the free Jamie Elliott tackles up forward, and usually they just fucking let that stuff go. And a couple of them, like, they were there, but they're the ones that, and this is why I hate the prior opportunity. It's like the guy had no prior opportunity, so we can't pay the blatant fact that they dropped the ball. And they just paid any incorrect disposal they paid, which was, like, really good, with the Elliott tackles, that is. And usually they wouldn't pay that, so I've got to give them credit for actually doing that.
Yeah, it's like I mean, there's a few Melbourne supporters complaining about the Viney one, where he was tackled in our forward line. We ended up goaling from it. He got paid to hold the ball. Like, he took possession of the ball. He's literally probably turned, maybe sort of looked and took a step and got pinged and dropped it. You think that's line ball, seriously.
Just like when Christian Salem tackled Josh Dacos after he received the handball and Dacos got pinged and Salem got a goal out of it.
Yeah, well.
So, and that's, I would get rid of prior opportunity. If you fucking drop the ball, you drop the ball. I don't give a shit if you have had no prior opportunity or not. It's an incorrect disposal. That's all it comes down to.
It would simplify things, you would think, wouldn't it?
And I can understand, like, if you're taking the game, more players on, and you get tackled, but should be holding the ball and all that sort of shit. But, like, there's times I think they're still got to be physically capable of getting rid of the ball. If someone tackles them and they can't move, it's like, you don't really have that anymore in terms of standing tackles. You have it, like, sort of when it's locked in and shit, but I don't know, I just think the rules need to be clarified, and these idiots in charge really don't know what they're doing. Did I ask you about final thoughts of this game?
Finals? We go to play finals?
Apparently.
No, like as I said, it was just a beautiful thing to watch. It's one of the better wins I can recall seeing.
You're pleased by Fly's response?
Sorry, just before I backtrack too, I think before you start, and I backtrack. Rewalt was saying after the game that the last, I think, 3 to 5 minutes or something was played inside of a 30-metre radius.
Yeah.
And that just really showed how well we've just evolved into locking down these close games and controlling it. Because, like, probably a month or 6 weeks ago, we were battling out these wins generally in the defensive part of the ground. But now we're keeping it in an area where we can potentially score out of, and that's a hell of a lot more comfortable to watch.
Craig said that like a three-quarter time, though, the players were really calm. So it was like, here we go. And you see that with a few instances, like there was one where Elliott won the ball in the pocket, and generally you'd think they'd snap it in top of goal square, but he just let himself get carried out with the tackle, and that was like, I don't need to kick a chaos kick, which might be turned over. Let's just be taken out, kill another 30 seconds, and then we'll go for the contested position again. Same with Chris, when he took that final mark, he just calmly went back, took his time,
went the clock down in the perfectly executable manner.
And actually, I've got to give Elliott credit. He's played 150 games. It's taken him 24 years to do that. He's missed about 16 seasons. But there's that one play where Salem, which is really funny because when you're talking about tough players, he had a shot at Ginnivan on the boundary, and Elliott just ran in and defended Ginnivan. It was like, that's the shit I really like to see, because then the players know, well, look, I've got teammates who have my back.
Yep.
And you really have that unity about them.
Spot
on. Brody Grundy out for the year.
Yeah, I saw that today. So the fracture in the ankle or stress fracture or something is going to put him down. Look, it probably... apart from the fact he was going to fix our clearance problems,
he has fixed them now.
It was just getting too late to the tail end to probably take any risks or anything with that. You've got the duo of Cox and Cameron working well, although Cameron's output's been a little bit down.
Yeah, I think he's just endurance and fitness, and he hasn't really played that role.
But it's yin and yang with that, because when he goes down, Cox comes up. Dun-dun-dun. But Coxie elevated. You could just make these gags all day, couldn't you?
Yeah.
In that second half, where it really mattered as well, even though Cameron was still a little bit unsighted. But at least you've got two reliable tools doing the big man thing still, or one of them's doing the big man
actually,
thing.
go back to when Cox put the knee into Gawn, and then the Melbourne players demonstrated, and they were showing the Melbourne players demonstrating. He was just going, "Come on, bring it," and he's got this really good.
Was he talking in an American accent?
I don't know. I couldn't hear him.
Come on, bring it. That's not an American accent, though.
I don't know what that was. Yeah, but he enjoys the banter, and he obviously comes from the US, but he understands the theatre of the sport and all that, and he's obviously just a really good sport. Because I saw he left a message on Twitter for Josh Kennedy. He was talking about this great moment with Josh Kennedy, and it was after the 2018 Grand Final where he saw Kennedy with his medal and just had this big smile. And just said that just showed me what it meant to him, and he was really happy for him, even though it came at his expense or Collingwood's expense. But he seems to be a guy that he's really fiercely competitive, but once that competition's over, he's just a really friendly, magnanimous guy. Because unlike me, I just want to kill everyone during and after the contest.
Well, you've had 30 years of practice.
A little bit longer. Hoskin Elliott's probably going to be out.
Is he?
With a hip flexor, I think it is.
I heard he was subbed off and no one noticed.
Well, he plays his role. Who would you bring in for him?
Would you
Henry?
Yeah, probably Henry or Rusco, I think.
I'd probably go with Henry. I'm curious what's happening with Henry, because I was reading that I was saying there's no rush to do this contract, which always worries me. The further it gets pushed out.
Well, you traded him to Geelong last week, so who are you moving? Who are you moving on to this week?
To the Collingwood seniors. But I actually like.
What about Madge though? Madge is he's kicked about 48 goals in the last 2 games since he's come back.
He's been good. He's kicked 9 goals in 2 games.
He's a man reborn.
Yeah,
he's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
I'd actually like to see, because when Henry's been in the seniors, he's played almost like a full forward. I'd actually like to see the way he could work with Johnson and then Ginneth and McCreary. I'd be curious if they can actually make that work. The one question mark on Henry is his intensity defensively, but who else are you going to play in that role? So I hope they bring him up.
The club hasn't made any announcements on Hoskin. It was a hip flexor or something like that. If they have a remarkable recovery, they can play again this week, can't they?
Well, shockingly, where are all the injuries this year? They've had some, but most of we get a lot of soft tissue injuries, and that hasn't really happened that much this year, which is a shock. So the new guy in charge, Jared Wade, is doing a great job.
Terrific, mate. Keep it up.
Most of the players who've been out injured haven't had, the typical Collingwood 2 weeks away for the next 28 years.
No, and I think it's only really been probably Kruger that was clearly not going to play again this year.
But he might.
I don't think he will.
But he might.
And Grundy, obviously, they waved the flag this week, so... But he was he came back to the VFL and
he played a good game in the VFL, so...
But he was more than likely a chance up until the secondary injury, so... No, they're doing well with the injury reports.
Let me ask you, Patrick Cripps, did you see the report?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think? Cause
I think they'll the AFL give him 1 week so he comes back and plays with us.
Time recording, it's 2 weeks.
Is that they?
Yeah.
It's a Cardinal appeal, no doubt.
Oh, no doubt. So hopefully get 4.
I think you can't really appeal that. He was well and truly off the ground. He was
He's
braced
surprised
for
in the
a bump.
commentary, because I listened to all the commentary. It was like, oh, it's a football act. It's like, really? Jumping off the ground. And I had an argument with someone on Twitter. They were saying, no, it shouldn't be a suspension. He's going for the ball. And it's like, where's he going for the ball? His hands are here. The ball's over there. And went back and forth with someone. He goes, oh, his arms are outstretched. And he showed a picture, and his arms are just here. The ball's still down there. So his arms aren't outstretched. He's left the ground. He's hit the guy in the head. Yeah. He's concussed him. The guy's been subbed straight off. So I don't know what the defence is, and you look at Maynard when he got pinged for 2 weeks in the preseason for hitting Lloyd of GWS. The that was a football act. He was trying to spoil the ball. So, but I'm really curious about the narrative because Dermot Brereton kept saying about Maynard he was never going for the ball, but he spoiled the ball. So he must have been going for the ball. Whereas Cripps got nowhere near the ball, but I'm being told that was a football act, and that looked like the Magro bump on Jezelenko pretty much. But I'm being told no, that was all fine. It's all good. He'd be rough to get reported and suspended for. And I'm like thinking, the media's narrative of these things is just absolutely fucking inconsistent.
Isn't it?
It's, yes, shockingly. Did I tell you Mark Robinson said we should re-sign De Goey?
He didn't, did he?
Dan McStay kicked 4.
Do you think Robbo actually meant what we should do is murder him, resurrect him, and then re-sign him, and then kill him off again?
No. Dan McStay kicked 4.
Did he?
Yeah.
I reckon we should double our offer there.
I think the funniest comment I saw on Twitter, one guy said, I don't know if he watches, but he goes, for all those critics of Dan McStay, I hope they're watching.
Because a whole year of mediocrity is now fixed in one solitary game.
Yeah, he comes good every 20 games.
Well, that's fantastic.
It's about 8
and then I did see a few of our supporters say, look, I don't think people would be too upset if he managed to kick 4 goals a year against Carlton. No, I think I'd be pretty fucking upset if that's your output, mate. No, one swallow a summer doesn't make, or what's the saying?
David King and Kane Corns were arguing back and forth. Kane Corns was saying, I don't see where he's going to fit. I agree. You know, you got Henry and McCruger who aren't in that side. McCruger, yeah. Henry and McCruger who are not in that side.
Oh, I can't imagine McCruger's in any side.
And they're going for Hill from GWS. Mm-hmm. So that's potentially free players. And you still got, you know, probably a couple of other draftees in there who might float through there, like Bianco and that. So who does he displace in that side? I know we keep going on about McStay. I don't know who he displaces in that side. And I'm not... And they're offering him like 5 years, and he's going to be 28 next year.
It just none of it makes sense.
So I really, like we've talked about it, I'm really curious if someone's on the way out, or if they have. As you mentioned, you know, is Howe on the way out or whatever.
Well, I mean, we guess we'll wait and see at the end of the year how it evolves. But I think I can only ever see him playing as a defensive stopper or something.
And I see the point of that when you got guys like McCreary, and then you got to think, you know, we're going to draft players who potentially going to be vying for those roles also. I would much rather, and we've talked about this previously, is your 2 best forwards the last 5-10 years, Mychek, who you got as a rookie, as a defender originally, and Ash Johnson. These guys were like in mid-20s when you picked them up. Surely there's other guys like this out there. You're not going to have to pay the McStay money too.
Oh, that's right. Now, considering you want to keep De Goey, although there's the report came out just before we started recording this that the 2-year deal at $800K a year is back on the table with some behavioural conditions. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, we obviously are never going to be privy to the salary cap or anything like that, but
we should.
Who's leaving that's opening up all this space?
There's no one leaving, so unless Hoskin Elliott or someone
retires. We've got the high purchase players out there that we're paying for. Is that ending?
Oh well, I don't know. I mean, you'd think, you know, you go back 3 years now that Phillips, Stevenson and Treloar all went. So that would have alleviated the pressure. And then guys like Pendles and Sidebottom, surely not commanding top dollar. How they're all in their 30s. And the only players who've entered that bracket of, you know, big money are Grundy and Darcy Moore, and then potentially guys like Maynard and that.
So, and Elliott's re-signed for 3 years today, so you wouldn't think that he'd be on small amounts because he's just too good.
He'd be in some sort of moderate amount. I wouldn't see him be in some obscene, you know.
I think coming off the injury year, he was on like a fairly minimal wage because it was just uncertainty about whether he was going to get his body right.
I heard that. He was on 900,000. It's minimal at Collingwood.
And they only gave him 15 years.
Yeah. Look, we're not privy to salary cap, but they offloaded all those players to make room. And then, you know, the thing people don't mention is Stevenson, Treloar, Phillips went, but around that, Aish went, Ben Reid went, Travis Varco went, Scharenberg went. There was a lot of players outgoing. You know, Chris Main's gone. So
and he was on a fair bit.
So there was a lot of players who went. So it wasn't just those three guys. There should be a lot of relief in that cap now. Now, just hopefully they're not going, oh, hey, Bo McCreary's had a good season. Let's give him $800,000 for the next 6 years. So hopefully they're not inflating offers because obviously to win, you know, you need a good spread of talent. That's the thing they're talking about with Sydney and Buddy Franklin. Is he asking too much in that it's going to come at the sacrifice of other players. I don't know. Playing Sydney.
Yes, up in Sydney on Sunday afternoon, 3:20, our traditional time slot.
Yep. It's funny that we're fucking second on the ladder and they're giving us these 3:20 Sunday time slots and 1:20.
Clearly, it's a big ratings time now or something. Something's changed.
Or they're trying to make it a big ratings time.
It does lead into the news and all that sort of thing, and you know where we're at, and we're obviously good to watch. I think it was actually funny just to sit there and watch a Friday night game. I just couldn't remember what one was like.
No, I agree.
Yeah, so hopefully that'll change next season. We get some more traditional time slots back, but yeah, it's not bad. Sunday at 3:20 on the TV. This will be obviously for us. You're not flying up, are you?
I'm thinking about it.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going to take the jet.
Yeah.
Tip.
Sydney by 10 goals, I think.
And who would you bring in for Huskin Elliott?
I think we covered that.
No, but who would you bring? I said Henry.
I think Henry would be the likely
Jack
one.
Magnan in, don't you?
Yeah, why not? Because he's a known goal kicker now.
Yeah, give him 6 years.
Well, McStay, he's turned his career around with one game. Madge did it for 2 games.
In the VFL.
Yeah, but still.
Why'd you do Madge for 2 games?
They can't see at this angle.
For
all I knew, I was holding up 3 fingers.
No. Any final thoughts about Collingwood?
No.
Look, it's still a shock that we're here where we are.
It is, and it's almost funny. Look, I mean, I think we win the next 2. We're absolutely locked into second on the ladder because, like, Geelong. Have you seen Geelong's draw?
Yeah. Fucking
hell! Don't tell me that they don't get a fucking armchair ride. Well, they're playing fucking the Frankston Dolphins on 1 week and the Laverton under-12s the next. And they're fucking top of the... How do they get such a piss-easy draw? And all their home games at bloody... that place. What's it called? Dump Stadium? Oh, it's... Yeah. But anyway, they're obviously going to be number uno on the ladder. But yeah, we can... I think I read today the lowest, if we drop the next 2 and everything goes against us, the 6 is as far down as we can go now. I think we should just win every game from here on in. And just
it's interesting. If you finish... If results went, the way you'd want them to go... and we finish second, and you get Brisbane finishing third, that'd be your ideal first final, playing them at the MCG.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez, you got really excited there. Oh, yeah. You wouldn't want to go there, or you wouldn't want to go to Sydney or Fremantle. You wouldn't want to go interstate, effectively.
I think we'd do well, though, if we did.
I know, but if you...
But I think and to probably, I don't know whether you're going to say the same thing, but just getting back to, I think it was after the game, one of the Melbourne players said to Nick Dacos about how loud are your supporters. That really helps. I think to actually have that home ground and the feral masses behind them, especially against an interstater, we would dominate, and that would certainly aid the players. Wouldn't make the difference, but it would certainly aid. No,
and you look at all the close games. I mean, people always talk about finals experience, and obviously the actual marquee of being in the final adds pressure. But I've always thought with Collingwood, we surely should have an advantage because we play so often in front of really big crowds. So it should condition them to some extent. And they've had all these close games. You'd think that should also help condition them. So you'd hope that, the younger player... I mean, I think it's going to bother Nick Dacos. He's just going to do what he does. But, some of the younger players like Ginnivan, McCreary, whether they'd be overwhelmed in big crowds and all that sort of thing. But, you get guys like Pendles has been around for, how long now? 16, 17 years.
12 years.
Yeah, so... you got that senior core who've played finals, like Buck said, 4 out of 5 years they've been there. So the thing really impresses me is, I remember when Malthouse took over in 2000, I thought to become a good side, we have to have a checklist of things we need to tick off. And one of them was beating North, because North used to bully the shit out of it. Us beating Essendon, beating Carlton, because they were just beating us constantly. And that sort of shows that the psychology is turned. I think this year, they've beaten Melbourne twice, they've beaten Essendon twice. They've still got to play Carlton the second time, but there's a lot of things that I think, fuck, I didn't think he'd do that. And it's a great ride, just collapses, jeez.
Yeah, that's been fun while it lasted. But yeah, we'll never know. No, we'll never know. You just don't know. No. We could do very, very admirably over the next 2 weeks and finish second. It's just... second, it is the tale of 2 Collingwoods, really, finishing second last and then second on the ladder the following year.
Oh, it's astonishing, and I think most people...
We probably haven't had a turnaround since 76.
Yeah, how'd that turn out?
Yeah, there's the usual.
Anyway, That's it from us.
And that's it from us.
Later.
Bye.